Alright, hello, welcome to MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, the podcast that reviews the ORVILLE. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. I'm joined by G.I. Jolie.
That's me, talking about the ORVILLE soon.
Woo! Also, Champion.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Wow. So good.
Pretty good.
It's great to be back talking about the ORVILLE with you guys.
Every time you say that, I'm like, is he talking to the audience or is he talking to me and Mike?
I'm talking to my cat, actually. I'm talking
we don't
to
have
neither
an audience,
of
you. So.
How are you, Chichu?
Chichu's doing fine. Actually, Chichu doesn't care at all about the ORVILLE. She doesn't. No, she doesn't even watch episodes with me. I put it on, she leaves the room.
Then I bet she likes Picard, doesn't she?
She does. She's more of a Discovery cat.
All right.
I mean, to each their own taste.
She likes it dark.
So today we are talking about Blood of Patriots.
It's Blood of Patriots?
Yeah.
I believe so. Or
It is.
Don't you dare! No, it's called Blood. I thought it was Blood. I wrote it down as Blood Patriots, but it's Blood of Patriots. Mm-hmm. And Ian, you are Mr. Memory, and you're gonna tell us what happened in this episode. Do you remember?
I remember. This is another one of those quote unquote dab pen episodes from the other night. But it's a pretty memorable episode because it follows so closely along with various Star Trek TNG episodes. Mm-hmm. So I can just remember the parallels. I'm basically just going to give you a synopsis of the TNG episode "The Wounded." So basically, we start off after Identity Part 2, where that leaves off, where the Krill and the Union have just fended off an attack by the Kaylon, and they have made the first tentative steps towards an uneasy truce. Now we go to the mess hall, where Yaphet is given a medal for his bravery in both getting the weapons and getting the message across to the Union and saving Ty's life and all that sort of stuff. And we learn that we are going to be meeting up with a Kaylon ship, with a Krill ship that's going to carry a peace envoy, and we are going to have talks towards not a peace treaty, but something that's kind of like the first steps toward a peace treaty, like sort of the promise ring of peace treaties. And as we find this Krill ship approaching, a shuttle leaves the Krill ship, and the Krill are attacking it, and they request asylum, and they fly towards the ORVILLE. The ORVILLE lets them on. They crash into the shuttle bay, and Dr. Finn and the security crew board the shuttle, and they find there's humans on board, and Malloy, as he's about to lock down the console and try and figure out what's going on, he recognizes the pilot. It's his old buddy Orin from way back in the day. Now the Krill are incensed. They want Orin back. Orin and his daughter are on this shuttle. Orin is apparently responsible for the destruction of 4 Krill vessels, 3 of which have been destroyed after the ceasefire between the Krill and the Planetary Union. But there's no weapons on this shuttle. There's no way that they could have done this, so they're kind of confused as to how these ships could have been destroyed. So they keep Orin on board, and they talk to the Union, try and figure out how to handle the situation. Now, who's the security chief's name again? Tala?
Yes.
Tala has some misgivings about Orin. She thinks that he's up to something, but she doesn't have any proof. So she's kind of watching. But he's very much against the ceasefire. And he hates the Krill because that's a little bit of backstory there. He's been stuck in a Krill prison for 20 years, along with his daughter, who was on board with him. So he hates the Krill. He doesn't want the ceasefire to go forward. And it looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder, but again, there's no way that he could have done what they're claiming that he's done. But be that as it may, the Planetary Union is in talks about whether they're going to extradite him or not. And it sounds as though if he's found guilty, they're going to have a little tentative extradition treaty to send Orin back to the Krill. Now, when Malloy, Orin's old friend, learns about this potential extradition, he gets really upset, says that that's not the kind of guy that Orin is. He's a stand-up guy, he's a fantastic officer, very loyal. And Malloy sours on the whole peace treaty thing himself, right? He takes Orin's side, because that's his buddy. And after a little bit of that, they get a little bit closer, and Orin tells Malloy that he's got a plan to stop this little promise ring ceasefire, but Malloy's going to have to find him a shuttle. So now we get the sense that maybe something's going on. Malloy goes to Tala and tells her, hey, he came to me and said this, and he wants a shuttle. And it's like he's asking for advice, but you know that since he's talking to the security chief about it, he's basically exposing the plan, and now he's got to go to the captain. He asks her to give him some time to talk to Ed about it himself. Now, fast forward a little bit, and Malloy goes to Orin and says, okay, let's go. And now it seems as though Malloy is going to be, a part of whatever plan this is, despite the fact that he's already told Tala about it. They go to the shuttle. Tala meets them there to try to stop them, but Malloy shoots her and knocks her out. They hop in the shuttle and they fly away. But that was all a ruse. Tala was in on it, and this was just to ensure that Orin believed that Malloy was actually sincere about his desire to join his cause. Now, Tala visits Orin's daughter at this point to see how she's doing. She has been basically a mute the entire time and terrified of any sort of doctors because of the way that she was treated in this Krill prison. And Tala discovers all these little marks on her arm, like red, basically holes in her arm. Mm-hmm. And then the daughter attacks Tala. Tala punches her in the face, and she's bleeding this yellow blood out of her nose. So now we learn that Orin's daughter is actually a secret alien. Dr. Finn arrives at that exact moment and recognizes this as a dangerous secret alien, orders a powerful force field around the quarters, and a nitrogen purge to get all the nitrogen out of the room. Because she's an alien with blood that reacts with nitrogen explosively. Now, Orin has been collecting this blood, saving it in a container that he stole from the ORVILLE, and he's going to use it as a bomb to destroy the diplomatic ship. Malloy subdues him, destroys the control panel of the shuttle so they can't fly anywhere. Then Orin sets off one of these bombs and says, well, it's going to be a suicide mission now. Malloy says, nope, not doing that. He hops in a spacesuit and jumps out the back of the shuttle. Orin blows up, and the ORVILLE flies back to rescue Malloy. They sign the peace treaty, and everyone except for Malloy lives happily ever after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay, here's the thing. I did like this episode. I guess my first question is, although we've all seen this episode twice now, does anyone think, or did anyone feel, maybe at least the first time around, that Malloy was going to go along with this plan? Or do you think they did a well enough job? Yeah, so they did a good enough job to trick us, right?
Yeah, they were pretty convincing with that.
Yeah. And I feel bad for Malloy because he seems to want very specific things on this ship for himself that kind of, because he sees all of his best friend's success, and he just feels like he's sort of along for the ride, or he acts like he's sort of along for the ride when he really isn't. He's sharing in this success with his best friend. His friend is the pilot, or his friend is the captain of the ship. He's like the pilot of the ship, which is like almost arguably more important than being the captain in some cases. So I don't know. I just feel bad for him sometimes because he's unlucky in love. He's got red hair.
No, yeah, I mean his dilemma was real, right? Like, and again, the actor, I can't remember what the actor's name that plays Malloy.
Scott Grimes.
Scott Grimes, but he's great. Like, he's growing on me every episode, and this was another episode where he showed another side of himself, and you really feel like this is a true dilemma. Like, he can't, but he must help this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And there was some good scenes between him and the captain. Him accusing the captain of being jealous of his friendship, and then in the end, Captain Mercer admitted that he was actually jealous, right? So I thought that was a cool scene. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as this guy, what's his name here?
Oren Channing.
Oren Channing. I think the problem with him is that I knew, again, this is my second time seeing it, but I think I knew right from the first time I saw him, like, no, this guy's a bad guy. Like, I could just tell. And maybe they didn't do a good enough job of making you believe it could go either way. Did you guys feel that at all?
I felt that, absolutely. I don't know if it was as much to do with Oren's character himself, but his daughter's character was super creepy. Like, she looked super creepy. She didn't look relatable. She didn't look sympathetic. Right. So the fact that she was tagging along with him, something was clearly up. Like, if they casted her differently, or if they wrote her differently, and they made her a little bit less frightened wild animal and a little bit more like a human that was wounded, then the entire story would have felt a little bit more plausible. But I think that she kind of blew his cover in terms of us as viewers. That's
a good point. Yeah, can you imagine if she would have been like younger and more innocent looking, and then when she would have turned, it would have been more shocking, and it would have totally pulled the wool over our eyes, right?
Absolutely. But from the very first scene, like when you see her in the shuttle as they crash, I mean, like if I ran into her in a dark alley, I'd be afraid that she would try to eat me.
Right.
Oh yeah, she looks completely suspicious. Mm-hmm. In like a Japanese horror film kind of way.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
yes. Absolutely, you're right. Like The Ring or The Grudge or something.
Yeah, and it's the eyes and the unkempt hair.
And
unkempt. I mean, like bad wig.
but in terms of the story, that's probably appropriate, right? Like that's how that character would have ended up after 20 years in a Krill prison. But for us, right, for telling us a story and making us feel a certain way, sometimes you can't be completely slavish to what would be accurate, right? You have to use dramatic license sometimes, and this would have been one of those times.
Yeah, because you think that if this person is Oren's daughter and they've been in a prison and she's been mute for 12 years, wouldn't you as the father kind of like take better care of her hygiene?
Maybe.
I mean, he was pretty dirty too, but she like looked even worse. Mm-hmm. So,
and she didn't. Yeah, she didn't seem to be all that attached to him either. After 20 years in a prison, your daughter is going to be attached to your hip and not trusting of anyone else. She's not going to hang out and watch movies. Mm-hmm. Planet of the Apes with someone she just met. That sort of thing's not going to happen.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking about this, and Malloy's. It reminded me of the first time I watched Planet of the Apes with Mike.
Yes.
Exact same reaction.
Well, do you want me to, Ian, I got to set it up. Can I set it up, Julie?
Yeah, of course.
I took the DVD case. I think I flipped the insert over, or I covered it with like tape. Then I covered the back. I didn't let Jolie see the DVD like actual disc, and then when I started the movie, I didn't let her see the DVD menu because all three of those things have the last shot of the movie as their image. Like, how stupid can you be, right? You've seen Planet of the Apes, right, Ian?
So many years ago.
But do you know the twist ending?
Well, yes, of course.
Okay, because
but that's one of those things though. Like everyone knows the twist ending.
But I did not know that. So I went out of my way to protect the twist ending from Jolie. We watched a 2-hour movie. We get to the last shot, and I was Malloy. I was like, "You see, they're on Earth the whole time." She's like, "Oh, I knew that." I'm like, "How did you know that?" She's like, "It was in Simpsons. It was in Family Guy. It was in every parody, every pop culture reference." So yeah, it was all a waste of time.
And this was exactly why, like, and of course, everyone who's listening is like flipping to a different podcast right now as we're talking about movies that we watched. But years ago, when I think we were doing the movie night at the restaurant, and we did Soylent Green.
Oh yes.
And I made this comment that it's people, and you're like, "What? You ruined it!" Like. You didn't know that Soylent Green was made of people?
No, I didn't. No.
Because everybody...
What?
Yeah, I didn't at the time.
Right?
No.
Because
I've never seen the movie, and I know Soylent Green is made of people. Never.
You may not know what Soylent Green is, or what the context is. You may not know that it's part of a movie, but everyone knows that Soylent Green is made of people. Mm-hmm. Anyways.
I go out of my way to avoid spoilers, even for movies that are 40 or 50 years old. But you know what? This is all a mystery. I did this like a week ago. I don't even know what I have on this thing. Okay, so ready? Blood of Patriots. I'm just going to dive right in, guys.
All right.
Maybe we could, I don't know, offer the Krill something else instead. Like what? Free back rubs or something. Yeah, listen, I gotta get back to this. Yeah, no. Do your thing. I was just pitching. It's a good pitch. I'll take it under consideration. I'll talk to you later.
Here's the thing, okay? That joke does not translate to audio only. It's all 100% Malloy's delivery of suggesting this stupid thing. But then do you remember the way he's like, "Oh, it's okay, good. You go do your thing. That's what sells that joke. But anyway, I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. He knows it's a terrible joke.
Yeah. Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Just FYI, I'm probably getting late now.
That was really pretty.
That was just
Was that another Lieutenant Dan?
That was Lieutenant Dan, just a random Lieutenant Dan. Basically, I record everything he says, because everything he says is funny. Okay, here we go. Here's another.
I just feel like we should have like a casual day, you know? Like once a week. Das mag lucu. Melika's brutal. Like no uniforms, just come to work in a t-shirt. A bulka. Birds kids Garrett keep playing. Masks on flits on Nijaka. Seriously? Chick douche? Baskets on Poland Kuska. Let's feel Anna. Sweetness. I'm gonna do that. Over.
Do you guys remember that one?
No, I don't remember that joke at all.
Yeah,
He's
he's standing
talking
in
to somebody else in engineering, right?
Right, and the engineering is not speaking English, but it's just funny because it's one thing to write gibberish for an alien language, but to also make it the syllables themselves funny, I think is what makes this one work. But anyway, and obviously, again, Lieutenant Dan, everything he does is good. What were we going to say, Jolie?
They weren't even talking about anything that was like particularly funny either.
No.
Okay.
No, it was just, no, Lieutenant Dan was just suggesting he wanted to have a casual day. That's what he was saying. But
Jesus.
yeah, he's just a total dweeb. I love that guy, though. He's so funny. So, anyway, I guess this episode, in the ranking of most recent episodes, is probably a weaker one. I don't know. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it didn't pull me in as much as other ones. Ian, what did you think?
I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Like it's a good concept, right? Somebody who has been wounded by this people that they're trying to develop a peace with, and he's holding a grudge, and he's going to sabotage it. And yeah, I don't care so much for the means that, like the whole explosive blood thing, didn't really do it for me. I don't know.
I thought it was a clever idea, but maybe it wasn't executed properly. Like if they could have thrown you again, they should have given. You have to have clues when there's a twist. So if there would have been some other thing about her blood, like maybe they wanted to test her blood or take her blood, and they're like, oh no, you can't take her blood because she has a blood disease. To at least throw you, to call attention to it, but also throw you off the track.
Yeah,
But the fact
or
that it
maybe
comes out of nowhere, and then Dr. Finn is like, "Oh, I encountered this 20 years ago, and I know exactly what to do." That was kind of like a little Deus Ex Machina, you know?
yeah, a little bit, and that's a good point. Like to give us some clues along the way, maybe have weird things. Like maybe it's not just her blood. Like maybe if she loses an eyelash, it explodes
Right.
after a while, and like maybe like little things are kind of like poof poof over the ship. Like what keeps blowing up?
That's a
and
great
then
idea.
they find out that these are all the places that she's been. And then at the very end, I was a little like, when it was this big plan to blow up this ship with this blood. But then when Oren sets it off, like Malloy is literally 10 feet away from the shuttle in a spacesuit when it blows up. And it's like it makes him fly away a little bit. Like it did not seem to be that big an explosion. Like that's all you got.
Good point.
But you managed to destroy so many krill ships with this already. At the end, the blood didn't seem as dangerous as they were making it out to be, and I don't know. I think it all comes down to the character of his daughter. Like if they had done something different with that, then
Yeah, and even I remember after finding out that her blood was explosive, I was like, even in my mind, I was like, well, what was the point of that? Like I had already forgotten that at the start we've already established that like Oren had been using a weapon Oren had used a weapon to blow up krill ships. Like I didn't even put two and two together.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like towards the end I was like, oh wait, he was using her blood. Like it wasn't like the concept of like him using her blood as an explosive, it's kind of like new, right? Like you don't really see that a lot, so I didn't I didn't put the plot points together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh great, she's like her blood is going to explode the ship, and suddenly in my mind, instead of it being part of Oren's story, it was like, oh, there's new danger for the ORVILLE.
Right.
And now Malloy is gone. Is this another two-parter? Like I immediately went into how does this put the crew of the ORVILLE in danger, rather than, oh yeah, this must be how Oren got away with it. They didn't find any explosives on the ship. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's got torpedoes hidden somewhere. But where? Are they inside her body? Like that's the thing. I don't know. It's just a lot of new technology and new concepts.
Yeah, now that you mention it, you're right. It's almost like they could have connected the dots a little bit and be like, that's how he got away with it. I mean, even though we should be able to figure it out ourselves, you're right. It wasn't made explicit, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to say this whole episode was half-baked.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. Right? A lot of good ingredients. Sorry to interrupt you there, Jolie, though.
no, it's good. It's not cookies.
It's something else that's sort of like, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking too, like, we had this apparent threat on board the ORVILLE the entire time, and they didn't really do anything with it until the very, very end. Like, they could have leveraged her in so many different ways. I mean, if she is as threatening as she's supposed to be.
And like he left the ship without her. Like why?
That too, as part of a suicide mission.
Yeah.
Is this the mission's over now? I don't. Yeah. I get it. Messy, half-baked. Not unenjoyable episode.
No, it was fine. It was just one of those middling episodes, right?
Yeah. It was a nice character development for Malloy.
Yes. That was the best thing that came out of it, I agree. And it was a little light on jokes too, which is always disappointing. I guess it was a serious premise, so there wasn't as much room for jokes, but yeah, there'll be more jokes in the next one, which we'll get to next time. But I guess that's all we have to say about Blood of Patriots. So yeah, you can find every episode of MORE-VILLE ORVILLE at www.comicbooksyndicate.com. Every week we review an episode in chronological order, and we are almost done season 2, and we are gearing up for season 3 in June. So keep on listening, because we're going to do every episode. I want to thank G.I. Jolie and Champion for joining me, as usual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank you.
and we will see you guys next time. Oh, and until then, there's more where that came from.